Okay, hi everyone. We're going to just start the debate. For Prime Minister, yeah, you can start your speech.
Okay, so preferred POI would be just unmute yourself. I will start my speech. Uh, in three, two, one. So, panel, under the motion, this House would ban public universities from patenting their technology that they develop, right? So, what is actually the urgency under this motion, right? So, first, let's talk about what is explicitly stated in the motion. Let's talk about why does it have to be public universities, right? We believe that public universities are universities that is owned by the state, that is owned by the government, right? So, we say that this kind of banning would be justified, but I will talk about it later, right? But so we say that this kind of public universities when they do develop some kind of technology, it's they don't have to go to private investors for them to actually capitalizing off of this technology that they have, right? But we say that this kind of public universities when they do develop some certain technologies, it's going to be managed more by the government itself, but I will talk about it later in my mechanism, right? So second of all, why does it have to be public universities, right? We say that public universities, especially in Indonesia, has their own different capability and different facilities when it comes to developing this kind of technology as well, right? So we can take a look when we compare to probably when we take a look at, for example, when Unhas made some invention, but it's not really as perfect. It can be developed by some other universities who are more capable of something of something of capability of other universities that has more capability. For example, like maybe ITB or something else, right? And the third urgency, we say that this kind of a patenting process by university student is going to be hard, right? So we say as the government itself, we are going to ban it all together, because so that the student is not going to have some sort of trouble in actually patenting this technology itself, right? So what are we going to do under the government side of the house? We said that under government, we are going to ban the patenting of technology by public universities, so that we can actually manage this kind of technologies under the government itself, because we believe that this kind of public universities are already owned by the government. So we said it's a justified move for by us from the government. So, and second of all, we believe that this kind of universities also have their own interest, their own private interest. We believe that this kind of universities wants to build their reputation by making this kind of innovation or technology, right? We say that we as the government will still give those kind of credits to the said universities, right? We say that we are going to give them some sort of private rewards, but we're not going to give them the ability to actually patent those kind of technology itself, right? So we say that we're going to credit them for who is responsible for to be who is responsible to be the inventors of the technology, and we will also give some kind of reward, for example, as scholarships and such, right? So, and third of all, we say that this kind of universities also have their own interest to gain some kind of capital, right? So we as the government is going to actually fund this kind of inventors to develop their technology even more, so that inventors are not going to go to some kind of private companies or private investors to invest in their technology itself. So we as the government say that they don't have to patent their technology, but we as the government will also fund their needs to develop their technology itself, right? So first of all, moving into my argument, so why do we think that this kind of banning of the patenting will solve the current problem in the status quo? First of all, let's talk about how this kind of technology will be accessible for the society itself. We say that when we as the government are the ones who are going to manage this technology made by university students, we say that it's going to be more accessible for the society, because we are the one who are more responsible to make this technology being more accessible to the society. We are not the government is not someone who are just profit based compared to what the private companies or private investors might be, right? Their company will be something that is just that will just capitalizing off of this invention itself, right? They're not going to cater to what is the society really needs. They're not going to care about does my society really needs this, right? But we as the government, we believe that as the government, we do care about why does society needs this technology, and how are we going to make it more accessible under our management, right? So, and the second of all, let's talk about how it's going to be even more better for the development of this kind of technology. When we say that this kind of when this kind of inventors from a certain university has already invented a certain technology, we say that it's not always going to be perfect. It's going to be some other ways to develop it, some other ways for the other public universities actually has the capability to create a certain invention that is going to be has the capability to fix this kind of flaws that they have, right? So we say that we as the government does not want to limit those kind of opportunities for other public universities to actually also invent the same technology with different approach or different takes, right? So it's going to be good for the development of the technology itself, because it's going to create an even better invention for the technology itself, right? And then the third of all, let's talk about how the patenting process is actually very problematic in the status quo itself, right? So we say that in the current status quo, the patenting process under the status quo was very hard. Right, there's a lot of university students that they doesn't receive the patenting as fast as they want to, right? But we say that this kind of process can be avoided altogether if we, as the government side of the as the government would just ban this patent altogether, right? So we say that it's going to solve the problem within the status quo, which is the university students are going to face a different is going to face a hard time trying to patent their technology, right? But and other problems that might occur when this kind of university students doesn't patent their technology, they will not get the credit that they deserve. They will not get the interest that they want. They do not gain the funding that they want, right? Because maybe some other students from other universities already patented their technology first, right? But we say, as the government, we have already managed this kind of issues in our mechanism itself, right? But because we say that we're going to give those kind of credits to the students and the universities itself for inventing those kind of technology. So therefore, this kind of issues will not happen in our status quo, because we are going to make it as inclusive as possible for all universities who are able to invent some certain technology or innovations itself, right? So, and second argument, I would like to talk about how is it going to be morally acceptable. We say that this kind of banning is going to be morally acceptable for the sole purpose of the development of the technology itself, right? We say that these universities who are owned by the government itself. This kind of university already get the funding from the government itself, right? So it's going to be morally justifiable for us to even ban this kind of patenting from those certain universities itself, right? So we said it's going to be good for development because of the capability of certain universities, etc., etc. And then second of all, it's going to be more accessible for the society because we as the government is going to be the one who manage it. So that's why we're proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Spending time 7 minutes 39 seconds. I call upon leader of opposition to start the case from opposition. Make sure you time yourself, yeah, guys. I also do it, but yeah, just to make sure. Okay.
Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1.
Sorry. Sorry, Hafiz. Is it just me or your voice is not as loud as other speaker?
Okay, wait.
Dava or Kak Mumu or other participants?
Ya, agak muffled.
Yeah. Can you
Kalau gini
speak
gimana?
louder or?
Kalau gini?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, thank you. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. On the opening of position, we believe that patience can be a prerequisite to life and world-changing investments, but the distance that patience can take you in a field that requires a lot of money and resources for research is finite. And the only way that the people responsible for these inventions can close that distance is by relying on external investments and market capitalization as funding sources. And that is why we believe then that the move of basically preventing those kinds of investors from patenting the rights to their inventions is not the correct move by the government side of the house. But before that, several contentions by government side of the house. They said that they would like to give inventions to other universities with more advanced technologies, for example. And then they went on to say that that at the end of the day, they're going to be giving these universities who basically created the inventions first more infrastructures and basically give them benefits and so on and so forth. But which one is it then? Because at the end of the day, we believe then that the second move is not going to be available under your side of the house, right? Because at the end of the day, what you have given is the opportunities for the more advanced universities with more advanced students, with more advanced professors, for example, to essentially take over the creation of these investments, and as well as all the benefits that's going to be taking up by these investments. And as such, what you're going to be doing is making the original university who made these inventions, who are going to be obviously subordinate in terms of technology towards the university that they're going to be depending on, obsolete at the end of the day, in which case there's still going to be no incentive for the governments to be using them once they have given the rights to their investments. So second of all is that the exclusivity of their arguments, right? Notice then that at the end of the day, the benefits that they are going to be giving these professors only extend to the point in which they can actually start to pursue the more educations, for example, by giving them scholarships and so on and so forth. But we believe then that at the end of the day, the same benefit and even better benefits can be achieved under our side of the house, and those benefits can basically create more incentive for these people to essentially create better investments in the future, or even further enhance their investments, in which at the end of the day they're going to be able to affect more people, and the extent of the effect that they're going to be giving is going to be better under our side of the house. But let's characterize how public universities and the fundings that's going to be coming from those universities work, right? Most of the research that is conducted within public universities are going to be funded by government's money. That is going to be given through like university funding, and to some extent these fundings as well came backed by students' tuitions, for example, like UKT or SPP. In the universal nature of governments, like it is going to be inherently universal, right? Because they want to encompass all sides of life, in which it also means that these governments will also have different things that they will have to cater to. It is not in which case not all governments are going to be interested in certain technological developments, for example, or not. Some might even focus on just infrastructure, and some on economic development. In which case, like these people whose inventions are probably not going to be within the interest of government will obviously receive less money, in which it is going to be preventing them from further enhancing their technologies, right? Second of all is that student tuitions uses are also going to be limited. Notice on how most public universities, the student tuitions benefits only extend to the extent in which it can benefit the department in which the student tuitions come from. So we don't necessarily think that these other kinds of fundings are going to be necessary, are going to be working that well. I have two arguments in here. First of all, on how this can help further develop this technologies that is going to be created by these inventors, right? Notice then that the alternative is going to be worse. The alternative is relying on government's money. At the end of the day, right? Notice then what does patent do? The patent essentially allows for the creator to create certain technologies and basically increase the demand of those technologies and capitalize whatever inventions that they have created. In which case, panels, notice then that how these patents essentially create a room for funding from external inventors, right? We are talking about people who has interest in developing these technologies, or people who essentially has businesses in experience in developing certain kinds of technologies, in which these patents are obviously going to allow these people to essentially have incentive on investing more on the people that has created these inventions. Notice then that this money obviously can basically extend to basically being given to like the inventors of these creations, and as such it's going to be giving them more incentive for them to develop their inventions, right? Notice then at the end of the day, if this doesn't work, then what is going to be happening is that these inventors are obviously going to be relying on the government's funding, which as we have already explained to you before, will obviously not are obviously going to be limited into the interest of the government itself. That is to say that at the end of the day, if the interest of the government doesn't align with the invention that they have created, or the purpose of the invention that whatever these inventors have created, in which it is not going to be beneficial for them to rely on the government's money. Why is this going to be exclusive then at the end of the day? Notice on how market works, right? Market works by essentially trying to cater into the most possible spectrum of the consumers, in which it is only going to be only possible under our side of the house. Why is this the case then? Because at the end of the day, external and essentially private investors are obviously going to have the most incentive for them to market as much as possible these inventors into as much possible consumers, in which like at the end of the day, by essentially relying on the government side of the house, what we are going to be doing is essentially trying to rely on the interest of the government, and as such, the government doesn't necessarily have the government might not even have any interest on developing this technology into essentially creating the technology that is going to be available to the most people as possible. In which case, panels notice then the interest of this private investors will obviously mean that at the end of the day, they're going to be creating as much products as possible, and they're going to be obviously maximizing the amount of product creations as possible, in which case it is going to be cutting down on production costs, and as such it is going to be obviously going to make it more available for external markets as well as the people, and making the inventions cheaper. Second, it is going to obviously prevent unequal development. Notice then that at the end of the day, what opening government has proposed to you is that essentially the inventions can be taken over by other universities with more developed infrastructures. Why is this going to be likely then to create unequal developments? Notice then that the inherent nature of these the universities to have more infrastructures essentially means that these universities already have more fundings from the university that is going to be creating these inventions, right? Notice then that at the end of the day, these universities obviously will have the most incentive for them to essentially capitalize as much of these inventions as possible. In which case, notice that at the end of the day, if we are going to be giving away this inventions into more developed into universities with more fundings, at the end of the day, what is going to be creating is further enhancing the inequality that is already happening within the status quo, in which these universities are going to be able to be granted government's money, for example, or basically having the incentive for the government to be given as much money to develop. But what are our counter mechanisms, right? There can still, we believe that under our side of the house, there can still exist laws regarding subsidy and discount for government customers and public customers. Why is this possible then? Since there are inherently still moral obligations for these universities, public universities, to essentially pay back the government who has been funding them. But let's take the government side of the house at their best, right? Say that this law cannot be created. We believe then that at the end of the day, it's still going to be better under our side of the house, since at the end of the day, there is still going to be a market with interest in creating more of these inventions, and as such, it is going to be creating more money and more availability for these people. That's why we are proud to propose.
Thank you, Leader of Opposition. Going to Deputy Prime Minister to continue the case from OJ.
Yeah, POI to the chat. I'm going to take in 5 minutes. So, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, 2 issue in my speech. First, why state have the responsibility to take this action instead of university? But second, but second, why this is justifiable to ban the university itself. So moving to the first, why state have the responsibility to do it? Because Hafizh already mentions that some money is from the subsidies from the governments, hence why state have the right to take these actions, right? Because the state have also spent all of the money to do these kind of things. But more than that, Rizqi already say about the accessibility itself. Why this is going to be accessible in this kind of government side of the house? The moment state are taking this action, which is try to be licensed, we say that they would like to share in general where everyone can access it. What kind of access? Access like basic information on how this technology arise and etc. You can ask the government you can ask the check and balance from the governments to do to give you the information itself. Comparative in oppositions, the moment university are taking this action, the university would like to close these informations because every university also have their private idea. It's their their private interest itself. But B, we say the ability of state to fund an investor itself. What is the comparative? In governments of the house, state have the large edge in finding the investor, because there is a process of cooperations or process of diplomacy in that kind of process. In state, for example, they would use this kind of diplomacy in that kind of process to reach the investor in that kind of process itself. But in comparative in university, since Hafiz cannot explain what is the process on how this university are finding the investor, you cannot count these arguments right. But B, state have the proper money to do these kind of things, because state have the proper money to like improving this kind of technology. So hence why this kind of technology, this kind of action should be taken by the state itself. But lastly, on how the check and balance are already exist, because the moment state already taking this action, for example, society get the room to ask the to ask the improvements of this kind of technology, whether or not this kind of technology are useful or not. But the moment this kind of action are taken by the university, you cannot have the room to access this technology to ask the report of this kind of useful of the technology. But more than that, the comparative is this: under team government, we can intervene as the society, we can intervene the state to like report the successful of this kind of technology. Under team opposition, as a society, you cannot intervene the university, right? Because the moment you taking these actions from the university, this kind of university would like to say, yeah, this is going to be in a private way, for example. So hence why in a first issue going to the government side. So moving to the second issue, why it is justifiable to ban university under two layer. A, patents means that you claim your technology as institutions. The process of you to create technology or to develop technology is you involve any other people, right? Your lecturer, your students, or any kind of actor itself. This is problematic the moment you want to patent as institutions. Because why? Because you exclude them in your process of your patent itself. What does it mean? It means that this individual cannot use your technology more, right? This is bad because you break the right of people to do to maximize your technology the moment you want to the moment you want to claim other institutions. Why this most likely happens? In your set of the house, the utilize of the technology only can be used as an institution, not as individual itself. Every discovery must be useful in general, where everyone can access it. Comparative in government side of the house. Why this less likely happens? Because the moment this taken by the government or state, society can access it. Because the interest of government is B, there is a tendency that institution can monopolize that itself. What does it means? If the technology is good, it can be used for all students, right? For example, the technology to analyze your character or any kind of technology that can help the society or student itself. What will happen? There are two
Before six.
conditions that will happen. A, no, you will use this for free. This is good. But what if this university ask you to pay the technology the moment you want to use this kind of technology? What is most likely happens by the university? Two things. First, also, this university need money. They will say that all of the money that you pay is used for the operational cost, for example, like to maintaining the technology, for example. But B, the moment the technology want to be improved as good as possible, that money that you state is by your UKAPI, for example, it's by your subsidies from the governments of the house, and then you cannot use this kind of technology as a good as well. Why in government side of house this is going to not justifiable? Because A, the interest of government is going to not profit oriented, right? You can use these kind of things in free, for example. But B, there is a subsidized money that you can use for the improvement of this kind of technology to begin with. So hence why the end of my speech, the actor that responsible is the state, and yeah, for to propose.
Deputy Prime Minister, going back to opening opposition, Deputy Leader of Opposition.
All right. So first, am I audible?
Yep.
All right. So okay, for POI is to just unmute yourself. I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, and the panelists, so we have seen several arguments coming from the opposing government and saying about how they are saying that banning patenting is actually better for public units if they want to develop their technology, and also they have several flaws in their argument. So, I would like to have some incident rebuttal first. Or so, starting about how they are saying that. How about they are saying that if the government that it won't matter about the funding since the government itself will fund the university itself to promote the technologies. However, from the opposition said that there will be some problems about that. So as we all know that funding and management it's going to be very difficult if you take into account that there are hundreds of universities that are present in the current status quo, and if the government is the only single thing that will be able to fund it, and it can cause a higher risk of those technologies not being developed properly. As we all know, also in this status quo, that state-owned properties tend to be less successful than private-owned properties, and therefore those properties, if they are just being developed by the government, it may not reach its full potential, and therefore it may not be used to actually develop the technology and make the technology being accessible for everyone. If you are just taking just the source of fund from the government, and also they are also saying about why actually by patenting it will get problematic, since that means that not everyone can access it, and therefore they are saying that they cannot maximize the technology. However, we from the opposition said that it will also minimizes the risk of having the tech being used for the wrong things that can be detrimental for the society. So for example, what if there are a technology that is developed, and because it is actually patent free, people can just take it and then people can just develop it for the wrong things, because it is actually accessible accessible for everyone, like without having no barriers. And that can be actually detrimental. Moving on to my argument is about why is actually patenting better rather than banning the patenting for the public universities. So first of all, it can give room for further development. So why it can give room for further development is because we know that if we want to develop technology, it's not actually a cheap process. And therefore, if they only get enough funding from the government, they won't have they won't have enough funding if they just get it from the government, and therefore it can come from the patenting their technology. And if they can patent the technology, it is possible for them to develop more advanced technologies, and it can actually be in line with the freedom of university, which is about research and serving, and then also, if they do not get enough funding, it is actually really hard for them to make it more accessible for everyone, since that means that they cannot maximize the technology, they cannot promote it, they cannot make it more accessible because they do not have enough resources to develop their technology. Therefore, the technology would be useless if they just rely on the government funding. Also, government might say that it can cause some issues, like maybe it can be used to capitalize on etc. However, we from the opposition have faced for several several regulations that have been set by my previous speaker. And since we have a regulation to ensure that it will not only be used in name of capitalization, it can still will have some regulations to ensure that it can still be used to maintain its accessibility and its availability point, so that it can still be used across the country. Also, it can also about how about it can give more exposure is by, for example, by having the public universities to make money to publicly spread it. And then it can also if I said before, it can increase availability to people and can be spread, and therefore in the long term the technology will be actually useful, since it is actually one of their goals to increase the quality of life. And while if their technology is not available and cannot be spread and it cannot be mass produced, if they do not patent it, then that means it may not be as useful. It can also be and also by having an patent, it can also allow them to sell it to people who can ensure that they can comply to the regulation, which means that they can actually that the public universities can actually ensure that they could sell it to the right people. And also, maybe you can and also, but let's take the government at their best. We can say maybe say that laws can be created to give partial subsidies for public and government the purchases of these technologies. And if the technologies are going to be as advanced or life-changing as what the government are claiming them to be, there will still be corporations out there that is interested in buying the patents and selling their own innovations in the market. It will cause it will cause great market competitions, which means that there will be less incentive for them to monopolize and fully increase their price as they wish. And then also about how it's actually gonna be safer, and it's gonna be more stable in the long run because of the reasons that I have implicitly stated before about how it's going to minimize the risk of people actually using it for the wrong thing, since they actually have to ask for the public union itself to if they whether they can use it or not, and they have to comply with the regulations that the public union can state and say. And therefore it will cause the development of the technology to actually be instead of just being more maximized due to the funding, it can also cause them to be safer due to the people that wants to actually patent them to have to comply with to the regulations. Even if we compare the worst case scenario even within the government, which is about the lack of which is about limited funding, and in our side it is actually not possible, since in our side funding will not be a problem, since everything can still be covered as well through their patency. Um, Also, I think that's why we from the opposition are proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Leader of Opposition. Going to the closing bench, I call member of government.
First of all, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In this motion in which that this House would ban public universities from patenting technology that they develop, the opposition side seems to brought two things in this debate brought two things in general, in which that has a problem with the funding and has a problem with the developing technology. Now, in this case, I would like to in my speech I would like to provide you with what is the main problems in this case, and what is the implications of this mechanism of this law. Now, first of all, I would like to rectify some of the arguments that the opposition side bring, in which that they brought up a lot about the difficulties of developing the technology if it's not patented. I would like to brought the idea that developing the technology with patenting it, they can brought more investor and the people of interest. The only problem is that there are this also is inside the main problem of what is the
what is the problem? The main problem here that we're trying to solve is that the problem is that there are a lot of problems in patenting, in which that the problem of patenting is that they only brings the people that care about the profits, in which that they care about investor that cares about the profit. Now, this in case when we think about it, is that what happens if this scenario fails? What happens if the people of you fail to bring the people of interest? What happens if you fail to develop this technology and they stop their funding right away? We can compare it to the government side, in which that in the government side they can still the funding is still run because it is something that is constant. The second of all is that they brought up the idea is that anyone can with this idea of not patenting it, anyone could develop it, and they brought this idea in that it is minimizing for the people that minimizing people doing the wrong thing, and they're using this technology for the wrong thing. We believe that this one is very small, in a way that the scale of this is going to be very difficult to do, in which that the idea of anyone can develop it is very the risk of anyone can developing any this is very small, in a way that it's not even worth in considering about this. Now, going to my arguments is that what is the main problem that we're trying to solve, and how this solving it. First of all, there are two arguments here. Main problem in which that the funding is for the funding is in the interest of the general public, and the two is the problems of patenting. Number one is that what is the problem of funding for general public? We understand that from the government side, the initial thought of giving this, giving the funding is for the better of society, in which that they can provide. We are providing this this so that you can improve your technology for the better of society. Now, what we don't want to happen is that, for example, the people are using this to gain a lot of personalized profit by patenting it. It's not going to in line within the initial thought of what is what is the funding itself. The significant harm that this brings is that perhaps, for example, like by patenting it, there will be something that more money towards something that's already been funded. Say, for example, a university patenting a certain technology, and they get a lot money from that. This is this meaning is that there is first of all for the funding, and also more money towards something that's already been funded. Now, this is not in line with what the government want, in which that we wanted, we don't, by doing this, meaning that there will be an inequality in other no, thank you. There will be, we will be leaving on other university that needs other funding. And number two is what is the problem of patenting? We understand that the problem of patenting is the focusing on decapitalizing capitalizing a profit, but not empowering the people who develop the technology itself. Now, this is this is not something that we wanted. As moving on to our arguments, is that we wanted to talk about the implications of this. We wanted to talk about the implications of what changes are going to happen when in this. We wanted to talk about the importance of collaborating, in which the importance of collaborating will be number one, provide a better technology in a way that when you don't patent it, when you provide this when you provide this, for example, with other universities or other universities, you will create an attempt in collaborating in which that can provide a better technology at the end of the day. And now, even if the opposition says that there is that this perhaps this is not something that they wanted, in a way that they wanted credit for themselves, they wanted this to be for themselves itself. We believe that this is not necessary, in a way that credit is still due when they are working on it. Credit is still due when they're working on it. It doesn't mean that they just because they are collaborating with other universities and etc. This is not something meaning that the it is not theirs or something in a way like that. they're still going to be credited for what they do. Number two is that this is going to the importance of collaborating, because if it is patented and not a lot of people not collaborating with other universities and etc., it's not going to be done. This is going to prevent further ideas. This is going to prevent further ideas to come into the technology, to improve the technology. And yeah, it's going to prevent further ideas to come to technology, and in the end of the day, it's not going to create a better technology. Panels, I would like to give you a consideration is that what you have to consider the main problem of this, in which that it is the problem of the funding and also the problem of the patenting, and we are from the government side are solving the main problem in which we are doing this law. Thank you very much.
Thank you, member of government, member of opposition. You can start your speech.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are out.
Okay. Thank you. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panelists, as the opposition side, we really do not agree if the House would ban the patenting of technology by the university, because we need to really know, we need to admit and acknowledge that actually the one who spend a lot of time, spend a lot of budget making investing on research is the university. They spend so many things for research, for gaining an invention, and it is not acknowledged. So it's so misery. Then so it is very important to patenting the invention, because it is one of the way to be acknowledged. I mean, our invention should be acknowledged by people, by public. And our second point is about gaining patenting is not meaning that we have to be if the society want to use the invention, use the technology, they have to pay for the technology, because it's been patenting. So it's answered the argument of the government about the profit purpose of the patenting. Here we need to make it clear that gaining patenting doesn't mean that the people have to pay for using the technology. It's better by patenting, then the inventors will have the right to control the technology, to have right on the technology. So they can just make contract with the governments to use the technology for public, rather than to ban the patenting. And then our third point is kind of like an analogy, comparing to the scientific paper of kind of like book, which is written by authors, which is written by their own authors. Of course, an author, when they write a book, they will spend a lot of research, a lot of time, a lot of energy for writing the book, and they write the book for public. And the same as the invention of the technology, they actually made it for the public, for the usefulness of the public. So if their writing or their invention is not acknowledged, then how can they have motivation, have like support from the public to make another invention or make another writings? So by banning the patenting, then it will also ban the motivation to make another invention. So that's why the patenting should be very important. And another point of our argument is actually by have the patenting to the university, to the public university who have the the who have invented the technology, then it will be very useful for not just the university but also for public, for public. Because I would like to take an example. Now in Indonesia, we have already had a program by the government which is called as PTNBH. It is it is the program for the state university that they can like they can have like put investing and make budget by their own self. So they will not get any budget anymore from the government. By patenting some inventions that are made in the university, kind of like Hasanuddin University is including in the PTNBH. By getting the patent of their invention, then they can make it as investment. They can make an investment on their technology, on their invention, for budgeting the operation of the university. So the budget by the government that should be put on the on the state university will not again in the university, will not again for the university, but the government can use it for another necessary for the public, for the society. So that's important. It's actually answered the argument of the governments about the public university that owned by government. The government funding it for the usefulness of the public, but actually that's it. By patenting the usefulness of the invention will also have for the importance of the society. And our another argument is by banning the patenting, I think it will make another invention will be stuck, because just like I said before, the people will not have, the inventor will not have another motivations for inventing, and the another people that have right to copy the invention will keep copying the inventions. Then because of that, then it will be very difficult for another inventions, because they stuck on the same inventions, just like scientific paper that usually asked to be written by our lecturer. Sometimes they ban us to the lecturer deny us to copy other scientific paper, because we have no new thoughts, new ideas. That's the same, just like the inventions, because without patenting, then people just can copy, and the another invention will be very difficult. I think that's all.
Thank you, member of opposition. Going to government whip.
Okay, am I audible? All right. As the government whip, I will be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. First, and for all, I would like to state again that for all that we as the government decide to ban public universities from patenting technologies that they develop, because those inventions were supposed to be beneficial for the public. This is not the private sector. This is the first thing that they must remember, that we as the government has spurred the essential funding with the basic funds that were needed at the first place. Speaking about PTNBH, I think that we should not forget that initially there were still some sorts of fund that were given to the PTN to help support them, and not just fully relying on their own income. Yes, they are given the privilege and they're given the rights to make their own income and fully use them towards their liking and to support everything that they need without fully depending on the government. But that doesn't mean that the government has left all the PTN, all the public universities, to fully fund their university on their own. When compared to private universities, students in public university pay much less tuition to support their studies and also inventions. This could also be credited to the initial funding that were given from the government to the PTNBH. Also, we can credit the prototypes, let's just say like the basic starting prototypes and guidance that were given, let's say maybe from the lecturers, from the mentors, the alumni. These were all people from that has been a part of the public sectors that helped all these investors in their process in inventing those technologies. We are trying to avoid the mass commercialization and capitalization in the public sector to make it accessible, quoting my opening government that we prefer to reward and provide for this talented investor and their universities. This will help them to advance their programs and etc. We also encourage collaboration, making it inclusive to other public universities, let's say, students, to support one another in hope for the technology to reach the peak of its potency, to cater for more needs, and maybe to discover even more functions that will, again, be benefit towards the public. Also, to refute to earlier opposition that it is not impossible for a finished product to develop without patent rights, because instead giving it a higher chance to develop because it is an open invention. Patenting and invention, as my second argument, did not guarantee a successful outbreak to the market. Instead, we can help them market it right away to the public, because as the government, we know what technologies that might attract certain inventors at the current time and wave of interest. Again, also quoting my opening, that diplomacy for inventors, legal rights, and also more fundings can be easily achieved once we as the state are put in action. Also, credits will never be removed. We would like to highlight that even when new collaborators in the future might add more ideas and might develop these technologies, this invention even more, credits towards the initial inventors are still there. We can see it all over the world. It's everywhere that we as the society of growing technologies, coming so far from the 80s, 90s to right now, we always credit the earlier prototypes that has paved the way for us to came this far. Also, to addition to my first speaker, I would just like to say that the harm of false use or development for wrong needs can still be supervised by the state. The chance mentioned by my first speaker are slim, knowing that the state is on board guarding the invention. So the malicious chance for the invention to be ruined or to be used for wrong intentions are pretty slim. We stand as the government. So also, I'm sorry. Patenting as an institution, again, I will just like to conclude my arguments And my extension is that, in conclusion, we as the government will ban patenting to stand with the public and then fight for the commercialization and capitalization. Because if we choose to look at it from the other side, because in reverse, the opposition, they are worried about how lower class universities that doesn't have as much resource or higher technologies than the higher rated public universities. When patenting inventions came into the talk or are broadly used, higher rated public universities could easily monopoly the market of invention because they initially has better resources with the status quo. So with patenting, it came we give it a more we broaden up the opportunity for also lower or less resource public universities, with the help of funds from government, of course, and bigger chance to be known and also developed by multiple investors and other inventors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, opposition. Sorry. Thank you, government web. So I call the opposition web to close the entire debate.
Am I clearly eligible?
Yep.
Okay. So, okay, if you want to PY, just unmute. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, ladies and gentlemen. Under the motion, this House will ban public university from patenting technology they develop. We are the opposition. We strongly disagree with that motion. Okay, let me respond with every single argument from the opening government, from the opening opposition, from the closing government. Okay, from all of the team, they haven't mentioned about the interest by the scientists or the researchers, the universities, and also the society. They try to mixing up their interests. They try to the society needs to wonder how to the university need to be have beneficial for the every single person in this world, and then the scientists all and stuff like that. So, and also the talking about capitalism when we're patenting the invention of researchers, it's talking about the capitalizing about every single thing. Okay, let me tell you and let me make you deep understanding about this motion today and what is actually status quo is better than scam by government. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So first thing that we want to tell you is about the patenting is talk about output based. So this is about the patenting institution when they're given the right of the patent, they focus on output based. So when we are talking about output based, that means that the institution just focuses on the output. What is actually the end of the product? So whatever the process. There's no one guaranteed that person. There's no one I can give there's no one who can standardize about the process on and so forth. So when we focus about the process, means that we will talk about the moral way about this motion. So we're talking about the interest of the scientists, of researchers. Why it's important? Because when we, as my first speaker say that, the researchers sacrifice a lot of things to research about what they want to create, what they want to make by their research. So means that we talk about how to respect about our researchers, about their sacrifice, about the struggling to achieve that what they want to do. And then we talk about university. Do you know that university is really they're really in a complete zone by each university. Each university have interest to have credibility, to have integrity. You know what? From the opening government said about integration, about integrity by university, that when they are what can I say, when they are giving like the research to what can I say, the technology to the society, it means that university better than other university. But let me tell you about the what can I say, the opportunity by each university when they are have also research each other, each university. So university, what can I say? University need to be standardized about what they can contribute to the society. If all of university give their research, give information about the technology, there is no one standardized about the technology. So it means that the technology, it's really, what can I say, it's really confusing. Which one actually the what can I say? Which one actually the university have? Okay. Which one actually the university have which one actually the university have what can I say, which one actually the university have their own rights, have the first which sorry, which one actually the university have the first invention about that thing. So, and also the capitalizing by patenting. So let me tell you about this one. Okay, somehow maybe a researcher focusing focusing to make their research as the main project to get benefit, to get money, profit, so on and so forth. But somehow too, what can I say? Some researchers. There are some researchers too focusing about how to, like can I say, how to make their son being benefit for every single person. So it's not really in line when you're talking about by patenting. We're focusing about the money, not always about it. The patenting scam when there's a researcher want to, what can I say, want to contribute their idea, they can what can I say, they can give they can give allowing to developing their idea. So focusing about this one, when we are patenting, we're focusing about how to protecting the idea, not just how to get the money from that idea about the technology. So what what can I say? What is the negative effect when you just focus when what can I say, when we are free to share about our invention to the society. So let me tell you about this one. So when when one researcher focusing to improve their research, it means that they need to be working. So they need to be continuous to always research. When we're someone free to get their idea, it means that that person will be continue the first idea. So what is the meta from this thing? So we worry about misconnecting by first researchers and the next researchers. Why it's meta? Because if there is misconnecting by the first researcher and the second researchers, it will be like the about the technology. It will be they hard to achieve that, and then it's how we can get benefit if misconnecting happen. Okay. 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 So, okay, and also we worried about the standard of legacy. Okay, this is very important, ladies and gentlemen. We worried about standard of legacy. If a lot of people doing the researching and then they have invention, in the same time with a similar invention, could you guarantee that there are people there are institutions who can standardize about that things. So we focus how to give legacy by first and then the second, and then it's cut off the opportunity to stealing their idea. I think that's all from me. Sorry.
Okay, thank you everyone for the debate. Good job even in the middle of Ramadan. Yeah, Dafar, you there? You can stop the recording.